welcome to another episode of the Oz DeFi Community Podcast. My name is Shahira, founder of Finch and venture partner at Skalata Ventures. And joining me today is Hannah and Connor, co-founders of Web3 investment platform Arbella. Welcome both.
Thank you. Hi.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today from Perth. I grew up in Perth, so hopefully we can bring the West Coast vibe to today's episode. I am curious though, what is the Web3 community like in Perth, Hannah?
The Web3 community here is small, but I think the ideas coming out of Perth are solid. I think as we're able to build without contamination from the east. So yes, it's a little bit more difficult to build community, get your brands out there. But yeah, I think we're punching above our weight.
Awesome. Well, first of all, congratulations to you both on building Arbella. I understand you're very, very close to launch, which is super exciting, and really keen to dig deeper into some of the, first of all, how Arbella works, who you've built it for, and the vision for the platform. But before we jump into that, I'd love to kick off with a bit of an intro from each of you individually on your Web3 journeys, respectively, where you came from, what you were doing before. I understand that both of you worked in traditional finance, and we're seeing a lot of that transition in the Web3 DeFi space, which is amazing. So perhaps, Connor, we can start off with your journey.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, exactly like you said, started out in traditional finance. So I have the finance degree and was always really interested in the economic space as well, which is actually how we became friends and how I met Hannah. So that was way back in like 2017. We both won scholarships to London. We were working at economics think tanks over there. And so yeah, it's a bit of a nerdy way of meeting, but when we came back, we remained friends and were always interested in that space and would catch up and talk about our careers. And the last time we did that, we finally jumped out and created a startup. But yeah, before startup life, much like many other Perth people, my career started in the mining industry in Perth. Just digging stuff out of the ground is how everyone gets to start here. So I was in the finance department of a company called Roy Hill, focusing on contract negotiation.
Awesome. And Hannah?
So my background is a bit more academic. So I'm from economics background, and then I was doing my honors and research at UWA, and then I published my first study. It's actually published like years after I graduated. And then I realized like I had no social skills if I keep doing research. So I went out and got a job in finance advisory. And I started off at the Wealth Designers as an assistant. And I was helping the principal advisors with managing high net worth clients. So like top 2% of Australia. Then I found that the financial industry for me anyway, and there weren't a lot of innovations, so like it wasn't moving as quick as I like it to be. And it was also, I found it as quite like closed-minded and exclusive. So I decided to quit and yeah, just look for alternative. Then I found myself in the blockchain space in 2019. Started off with like Library Coins, which is like this decentralized version of like YouTube. And then got out of that and learned a lot and realized like, yeah, like this space is really cool, especially the people. And around that time, like Connor reached out to me and we decided to start to work on Arbella together.
How exciting. It's I always love hearing co-founder stories because it often comes from the most unexpected friendships or relationships, and it seems like both of you have quite complementary skill sets and a body of experience that lends itself really, really nicely to Arbella. So tell us, what is Arbella, and what's your vision for the platform?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. So essentially we're an investment collaboration platform. And the idea really came from what we were seeing in the traditional finance industry, which was investment collaboration taking place, but it being quite exclusive, but exclusive in the sense of you had to have capital to participate and not skills. So a good example for it might be like an angel syndicate, how you need to be accredited typically, which means in Australia, millions of dollars in your bank account. or VC networks. Like they rely on their relationships quite heavily and share deal flow reciprocally. But when we start like to talk about millennials and how millennial investment communities work, it's a completely different format. So they can be found typically on Reddit and Twitter. The infamous Wall Street Bets, I think, is a good example of a millennial investment community. So they've got 13 million users, absolutely nailed engagement, community scalability. But I think most people would agree they are lacking in certain governance structures and tends to engage in overly risky behavior. So if you're a millennial, you've got these two kinds of paths if you want to join an investment community. One, you probably can't get into, and two, you're probably going to lose money on. So we wanted to solve that problem first and foremost. We wanted to create a platform from the ground up that was actually designed not for general discussion like Reddit or Twitter, but for investment discussion. And so we realized pretty quickly a lot of what we're doing and a lot of what a platform needs to contain is very different to what these general discussion boards contain. And the second thing that we started to build out was the community and be a little selective, not based off of capital, but based off of can this user provide value to the entire community before we engage with them. And that has allowed us to have some incredibly interesting people engaging in the Arbella community. And we, I guess, eventually found that a lot of them tend towards Web3 naturally, being millennials and early stage companies as well. And that sort of led us to this really interesting question of, okay, what innovative things can we do around incentives modeling? Because the onboarding into like, being able to implement Web3 into our community, there's going to be very little resistance there. So what can we do then to assist that and encourage users to work together and provide value? And Web3 incentives was a huge way of doing that. And then another thing that we're looking really closely into in the Web3 space is syndication. And a little further down the track, we'd love to explore DAOs as a way of doing that.
I love this combination of Web3 millennials and building on kind of what we understand to be just a massive gap in the financial education space for young Australians. Hannah, I'd love to hear from you how you go about, first of all, why target millennials? What were you seeing in the market that made you think, gosh, we could really benefit from an investment community from which to learn and share investment opportunities. Tell me more about that millennial behavior.
Yeah, sure. So we all know that there's a huge difference between like affordability for Gen X and Gen Y. So the old model, the financial system is it's pretty much like old money, and it's difficult for Gen Y to acquire wealth. Millennials to acquire wealth. So we want to be able to cater for that and open opportunities for them, especially in this market where there's like high inflation and everything is costly, and it's not as easy to afford a house versus like back then. And naturally, like we're both millennials as well, and we understand that the mindset from millennials in terms of like investing, they more open to collaborative models instead of just compete and I am the best and I want to show everyone that I'm the best. They're more open to collaborate with others, getting ideas from others. And this is all started like 10 years ago with AngelList, where you see like collaborative investing communities really pushing through. And yeah, that's why we want to work on that, because we think that's the future of investing. We really think that investing communities will make a difference and really innovate that wealth management space.
I think you're spot on there. And I think there's lots of emerging examples of young investors, whether it's in the traditional VC realm, where you've got a lot of young VCs now, heading up these syndicates and angel groups and really looking to democratize investing for people, which I think is fantastic.
Absolutely.
I'd love to hear more about the crowdsourcing investment research due diligence piece, because anyone who is an investor and or is currently evaluating different projects and different investment opportunities, all know the burden it can be to be gathering the right information and understanding kind of the risks of making that investment. Connor, can you talk me through what does that look like? You mentioned sort of incentives for different kind of community members. Help paint a picture of what that investment research looks like.
Yeah, sure. And a lot of our ideas from this actually came from these initial customer feedback discussions that we had that just sort of snowballed into this implementation. So one of them, for example, was meetings with people whose job it was to scout VC deals for VCs, and sort of like junior analysts at these companies as well, who typically would say something along the lines of, when they were going on like sort of platforms like AngelList, which sort of facilitate relationships between investors and founders. So if you've ever gone on one of these kinds of platforms, what it is like the founders all just pay a bit of money and then they get to pitch their project to investors. The problem is when you've got thousands of founders all doing that, and founders will typically embellish a little bit and they will try to make themselves rationally look as good as possible. So it's the investor's job at that point to sift through everything and perform an immense amount of due diligence. And the feedback we were getting was like up to 5 hours a day sometimes in due diligence is just spent verifying what these founders are saying. And so a big part of what we wanted to do with Arbella was to, instead of facilitate the relationships between investors and founders, it became a question of, can we facilitate relationships between investors and other investors? Because if it's peer reviewed, the I guess concept is that it cuts down time on due diligence. You already have some sort of assurance that what you're looking at is going to be a strong sort of deal. And then we came across a study that said, it was by Facebook IQ, that 92% of millennials distrust financial institutions. A further 70% prefer to do their own financial research and rely on peers. And so we've got these two things happening at the same time, right? We've got this kind of old model of founders to investors, which is creating a lot of work for investors. And we've got now a tendency for younger investors to start to rely more on their peers. And so it just was an obvious solution to us. Can we try to facilitate those relationships between investors? And so that's really what we're all about. And then the incentives to kind of design that, firstly, it's going to depend a lot on how the community start to interact with each other on the platform, which is going to be ready in about 6 to 7 weeks, we think. And there are a few ideas we have already on that. A piece of feedback we got from an angel investor, for example, was that they really wanted to invest. They came from a finance background and they really wanted to invest in this medtech startup that came out of Perth, but they didn't understand the medical industry as well as they wanted to. So they thought, well, wouldn't it be really cool, for example, if you could put like an Ethereum bounty on this deal that you would propose to the community of like, 0.1 ETH or something like that. And someone in the community with a medical background could come along and give their opinion on that, or write down like, a couple of pages of analysis and earn that bounty. So just kind of small things like that, where we could start to facilitate mutually beneficial relationships is super interesting to us.
That's great. I love that concept. How do you manage the quality control? So how do you manage the people that are contributing, that they have the adequate backgrounds to be giving that professional opinion?
Yeah, so great question. The first part of that is selectivity on who can actually enter the community. And I think, as Hannah said, like, we're not, looking for just the managers of JP Morgan or something like that to enter. We're really just trying to filter out that sort of risk-taking behavior and lack of risk management from entering the community. But then once I think the community have a general sense that everyone in there is going to offer something that's at least moderately valuable, then it's heavily up to each other to peer review the person who's making the opinions. So for example, once someone signs up, we ask them to make publicly available the experience they've had with finance or the investing industry, any sort of niche area expertise they might have. And we verify that so that our community can be sure that they're telling the truth. And we do due diligence on all of our members in that sense. And then the idea basically is that you don't just have to rely on what someone's comment or analysis is when they're talking about a deal. You can go and look into that person and say, does this person actually know what they're talking about? And you can start to validate their opinion on the platform.
Mm-hmm. That's excellent. Hannah, I understand the development of the platform is phased based on, I guess, the first phase being really focused on building the community, and the second phase bringing in the investment opportunities once you understand and validate what the community values. Can you give us maybe an indication of the types of projects or investment deals that you would like to be listing on the platform, and then I guess the type of expertise that you'll be bringing in or in your community that you expect to contribute to that research?
Since we're using Web3 tech, so naturally our community started off with a lot of Web3 projects, but we want to be able to expand out and hitting early stage projects, non-Web3 early stage projects. Like, we so cool that we have like Biomed or other type of tech, or yeah, just anything else really, because the group of investors that we have in our community right now, a lot of them are non-Web3 as well, looking for great opportunities. And it's not just exclusive to just a deal flow in terms of like, can I invest in that at an early stage? It could be like due diligence on already established projects. So for example, there could be a topic on like say crypto.com, and this is like how I would use it, is like I want somebody to like go in and do a bit of like due diligence on crypto.com for me and get paid. So yeah, in terms of projects, we're looking at pretty much anything that could benefit from collaborative model, and being like could benefit from like community research. But naturally, what our communities are at the moment is Web3 early projects and non-Web3 early projects as well.
Amazing. And do you find that you have a sort of particular lean towards a sector, obviously being finance? Do you find yourselves gravitating more towards DeFi and finance opportunities, or across the board?
As in like myself, or it's in like Abella?
Either for yourself, I mean, and also the types of projects that you'd like to kind of bring onto the platform.
Oh, okay. So for me, because I invest in things that I know, which is for me, it's like I want to expand outside of that. So this is how I envision like Abella to be, is like for investors to like go out of their comfort zone and be able to invest in things that they don't particularly like, not their expertise. But with the platform, they could get like market expertise on those projects to invest. So for me, I naturally tends towards DeFi projects like SaaS. Yeah, those are like my strong area, but I would love to invest more in like AI, or even biomed, or things that like help children, for example. Like, those are things that I'm passionate about.
Mm-hmm. I think that's such an amazing kind of access, providing both on the education side, but access to actual investment opportunities, and even just the experience of understanding how to go about evaluating an opportunity, even if their path may not lead them down kind of the proper accredited investor role. Certainly in Web3, there'll be more and more projects and things that people will want to find ways to participate in, and so teaching them how to de-risk that, I think, is really important. On a final note, I'd like to get your thoughts on community building. Obviously, Odds DeFi being a community where we're all about supporting each other and collaborating. How do you go about, Connor, in building the community at Arbella? I believe you're up to sort of 300 members so far pre-launch, which is an incredible number. Tell us more about your efforts there.
Yeah, for sure. It's taken a very sort of direct approach, I think, at the start, which is we had a little experiment a while ago where we just put up some ads on Reddit, kind of talked about what we do and just saw if we got any interest, and we got interest, but it wasn't the right kind of interest. And so we took those ads down pretty quickly, and we thought about it, and it really quickly became this understanding of, okay, for the first few hundred people, let's find really interesting people and like directly reach out to them. And that has been like really, really successful for us. Like the first few hundred, we really got to know, like we got on phone calls with them, and yeah, it just got really exciting because they were all such interesting people. But the scalability of that, right, becomes a bit of an issue. So now what we're hoping to do after launch is a model that I'm not sure if you're familiar with Clubhouse, but like Clubhouse, this like audio sharing platform used, which is that you use current members to allow them to refer their friends. So the Arbella model is you're allowed to refer up to 6 friends. And this is sort of our way in the near future of expanding that community outwards, managing the risk profile of the community, maintaining the culture, and a little air of exclusivity we think is a good thing as well. So yeah, that's pretty much the strategy at the moment.
Yeah, brilliant. And
I would love to add a little bit to that as well, because I'm basically like acting as the community manager at the moment. Is that I think with the core of communities that you have to give a shit about them. So a lot of care goes into our community members, like understanding what they want, how we can help them connect to other members, and like just like genuine interest in like helping and also like adding to their life as well. I think is I suppose the magic source to building a community.
yeah, absolutely. And so final question, what for both of you, what does community mean to you? Hannah, I'll let you go first.
Okay. Community means to me is cheesy, but it is belonging. It is somewhere that I feel like safe to express myself, and also that I could be adding value to other people as well.
Yeah, I think it's like that like next stage across, like people used to think of products and an audience for that product, and yeah, if it's an audience, it really is just about like, we're going to make something, go ahead and use it. But like now this sense of community, it's so much more back and forth. Like there are members of our community that have had like really genuine input into what this project looks like, and I can point to like a number of features that didn't come from Hannah or myself, that came from people that we've been on phone calls with. And I think it's just a much more effective way of being able to design something, and it's probably or I hope anyway, going to be the way that products and businesses are thought about in the future.
Absolutely. And I think it's such an important anchor in reminding ourselves that what we're building and our mission is actually far bigger than we are. So yeah, beautiful answers. Thank you both so much for your time today. Unfortunately, we've run out of time, but I really appreciate you taking the time to chat today. Love what you're building at Arbella. Your pre-launch, launch is sort of 6 to 8 weeks away. So for those of you who are interested in learning more and or wanting to sign up to join the community, head to arbella.io and of course reach out to Hannah and Connor if you've got any further questions. Thank you both. It's been an absolute pleasure. And for everyone listening at home, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.